Hey guys, welcome back. So for Jess and I, we stopped this and then we started up again, and for you it's been a week. Though the last time I said that, I didn't post for a week, so it was 2 weeks. But that's not going to happen this week, I'm just saying that. Anyway, so we ended on Viktor Frankl. To be honest with you, I told Jess, I was like, plan for 2 episodes, that's probably what's going to happen just because that's kind of, just works best that way, and then I have 2 weeks to, anyway. And she was like, okay, sounds cool. But we weren't really sure exactly where we were going to go or what was going to happen. And I said, perfect. I love going with the flow, at least with podcasting. The other situations of my life, I like to know what's going on. But we ended up on Viktor Frankl, and I said, you know what? Let's dedicate this next one to him, or at least a portion of it. So let's give some background on Viktor Frankl. Do you want to start off since you introduced him?
Yeah, I would love to. Viktor Frankl was an Austrian psychiatrist?
Yeah.
Let me see. Okay. And in the Holocaust.
Yes.
Correct?
So he went to a concentration camp.
Thank you.
Lived in, I think he started in Auschwitz, and then he went to Dachau.
Yes.
I don't know what happened there because I'm still in the middle of the book. But, yeah, so he was someone who someone who lived in a concentration camp and suffered in a concentration camp. That sounds better than struggled. So he has some, pack to the punch to the pack. I don't know what word I'm looking for. But he has some words to say, and they're worth listening to because he's not just speaking from nowhere. You know, he's speaking from genuine, honest meaning and suffering. And so I appreciate what he has to say because he's learned it for real. You know, learned it from the bottom. So anyway, Jess was just reading some of the quotes from him and just some of the words that he said. I said, you know what, let's just talk about them because I feel like they're powerful stuff. So do you want to read the first one for us? Do you mind? Just pick one. Doesn't matter.
Yeah, we'll start with this one. Ever more people today have the means to live, but no meaning to live for.
What are your initial thoughts on that?
Well, so I'm actually doing a research project.
Ew. I mean, oh, really? That's so exciting.
Sorry. A little bit of context. I'm doing a research project, but it is on why, as adults, do we not play more? And how play and fun is different for every person. So, since that's kind of on my mind, I kind of thought of there's no meaning to live for.
Yeah.
Perhaps it's because we're not playing.
Yeah.
We're not having fun.
No, I love that. So I just want you to know that most people who actually know me know I'm like super Mormon. Like I am the definition of a Molly Mormon. So when you said that, I was like, well, yeah, Jesus tells us to become like a little child.
Oh my.
So anyway, yeah, I love that. I totally agree. And I think playing and having fun and kind of letting loose in all appropriate settings, obviously, is so good for you and so healthy. So anyway, love that. Continue.
So yeah, that was just my initial thought. Let's see. I just think that, holy shoot, never mind.
Okay, actually, I do have a question for you. So you said you're doing some research. Is this a literature review? Like, are you looking at all this research and compiling it? Or are you are you doing research yourself, like with a professor?
Yeah, so we are starting with nothing.
Okay. So who are you doing it with?
With Clint Broadbent and Breon.
What?
Yeah.
I want to do that.
Sorry.
That's awesome.
Not this time.
That's awesome. I love that.
So, yeah, I've never done this before. Mm-hmm. I'm wanting to be a professor or at least get a master's or PhD.
Solid.
And I figured what better way to kind of just show that I'm all in and my resume is complete with a research project.
Oh, so I completely agree.
Little did I know I would be thrown into we have nothing for this. We have so much information in regards to child play, but not a lot on adults. So we are performing the surveys. We are going to be doing statistics and the p-values and all of that in order to find, just some information, and then we'll present it actually.
RMPA or UTCFR?
Yes.
I think that's what it's called.
Yes. First, so we're presenting it at the Festival of Excellence, I think, which is in March.
Yep.
It's last week in March, and then we're going up to BYU.
For the UT?
Yes.
Okay. I think that's in April.
No, it's in March.
It's in March as well?
Or it might be the division before you get to the UTCFR.
Okay.
It's like the little... Is your research that level?
Yeah, is it statistically significant?
Thank
is
you.
There something
Yes.
Yeah, okay. So to kind of give some background, at SEU we do this little Festival of Excellence. So any student at SEU can apply to show something. In fact, I've just shown a little poster just from being in one of my professor's class because that's an assignment. So yeah, then you can kind of present research findings that you've completed, you found, and you just want to present and share. And then that's kind of like basically like a gateway, because then you can go to this place called RMPA, which is more of a psychology route, which is with research. And then UTCFR is like Utah Marriage something Commission, I don't know. Anyway, that one's at BYU though, so a little bit more, what's the word, doable, it's closer. Because I know RMPA was in New Mexico last year, and this year it's in Denver, Colorado, so.
Cool.
Yeah. Anyway, research, playing.
So, yeah.
Would you say you play as an adult then?
Yes.
Okay.
Yes, I do.
Yeah, me too. First of all, I laugh at everything because I think everything's funny, and why not laugh at everything? And second, playing games.
Is that your play? That is your play.
I love playing games. All of the games in the whole world. Like, I'm like Clint. Like, he likes like a million. I love board games, love card games, love spike ball. I like playing those games that you don't have like board game or card game or anything, but there's just a whole bunch of people and you just like play a game. If that kind of makes sense.
Yep.
So, anyway, sorry.
That's cool.
I love to play, so that made me really excited.
That's awesome.
But let's go back to Viktor Frankl. I know you had one more quote, so will you read that?
So, it says, if there is a meaning in life at all, then there must be a meaning in suffering. Suffering is an ineradicable part of life, even as fate and death. Without suffering and death, human life cannot be complete. Kyra, what do you think?
Wow, boom. Can I hurry and borrow it just real quick? I think my favorite part is if there's a meaning in life at all, then there must be a meaning in suffering. Yeah. Because he's right. You can't get rid of suffering. You know, it's not like you can just poof it out of nowhere. And I know this can be a controversial topic, too. What's the purpose of suffering? Why is there suffering? Is there suffering that's too much suffering? Is there suffering that's, like, way too much? You know, I'm going through my mind in the concentration camps or, you know, with sex trafficking or child trafficking. There's just certain things that are pretty terrible. Yeah. Pretty evil.
Or why even, I mean, this comes up a lot. Why does God allow us to
100%,
suffer?
100%.
You know, why are kids being trafficked 100%. And sold like cocaine and, you know, these deep drugs, you know?
No, I do. And the thing I come back to, there's lots of things I come back to, but the thing I come back to the most is that he will not take away our agency. And that, unfortunately, people choose evil things.
Yes.
Not just like bad things, but some people choose evil. And unfortunately, that affects other people. And so, that all being said, that does not mean that God gives up on us. I can't say with every story I've ever heard that there's always, I don't know, like a redeeming factor in the story, if that kind of makes sense. But I do know, for example, with concentration camps, some people just died and that was it, you know, and they're in a better place now, but that's not really, you know, makes things better. But I do know, though, that, have you heard of that story, The Hiding Place? It's also about the Holocaust and the concentration camp.
Sounds familiar, but
so I have not actually read the book, but several different people have told me this story. It's about Connie and, I don't actually remember their names, but it starts with a B and it starts with a C. I don't remember their actual names, but so I looked it up, I paused this, and I just ended up downloading the book, because it's on Kindle Unlimited, and we have that. But anyway, her name's Betsy. So there's Corey and Betsy, and Corey is the one who wrote the book, and then Betsy's her friend. And they get sent to a concentration camp. And so while they're there, they're finding a place to sleep, finding a place to sit down. And then she says, so this is from the book, "Suddenly I sat up, striking my head on the cross slats above. Something had pinched my leg. 'Fleas!' I cried. 'The place is swarming with them.' We scrambled across the platforms, heads low to avoid another bump, dropped down to the aisle, and edged our way to a patch of light. 'Betsy, how can we live in such a place?' I wailed. 'Show us how.' It was said so matter-of-factly it took me a second to realize she was praying. The distinction between prayer and the rest of life seemed to be vanishing for Betsy. 'Corey,' she said excitingly, 'in the Bible this morning. Where was it? Read that part again.' I glanced down the long dim aisle to make sure no guard was in sight, then drew the Bible from its pouch. It was in First Thessalonians. How do you say that? Thessalonians.
Okay.
It was, there's like a bar, so it's not all as one word, and it's making it hard. It was in First Thessalonians.
You're reading it in Spanish.
Thessalonians. It was in First Thessalonians. I said, "Here it is. Comfort the frightened, help the weak, be patient with everyone. See that none of you repays evil for evil, but always seek to do good to one another and to all." "Go on," said Betsy. "Oh yes, to one another and to all. Rejoice always, pray constantly, give thanks in all circumstances." That's it, Corey. That's his answer. Give thanks in all circumstances. That's what we can do. We can thank God for everything about this new barracks. Have you heard this? Do you know? Are you recognizing this yet?
No.
Not yet. Okay. Maybe not at all. I stared at her, then around me at the four-aired room. "Such as?" I said. She says, "Such as a being assigned here together." And then she says, yes, that's true. And he says, "Such is what you're holding in your hands." She says, such is what you're holding in your hands. I looked down at the Bible. "Thank you, dear Lord, that there was no inspection when we entered here. Thank you for all the women here in this room who will meet you in these pages." "Yes," said Betsy. "Thank you for the very crowd in here. Since we're packed so close, there will be much more heat. And there will be many more to hear." She looked at me expectantly. "Oh, all right," I said. "Thank you for the jammed, crammed, packed, suffocating crowds." "Thank you," Betsy went on, "for the fleas. And for..." That was too much. "Betsy, there's no way even God can make me grateful for a flea." She said, "Give thanks in all circumstances. Fleas are part of this place where God has put us." So we gave thanks for the fleas. And I won't read the rest of it, but I'll tell you the back of the story. So what happens is they're able to keep this Bible. And normally that would have been taken away, like so long, so quick, but it wasn't. So they actually ended up being able to read this Bible to lots of different women that come in there, and it becomes a thing of comfort and a thing of peace and a thing of safety and love. And they read the Bible like every, I think, night to this big group of people. And one day they're assigned to make these stockings, these socks of some sort, and they're sewing them. And one of them goes out to talk to the guard or something, and she's like, "We need you to come check something, like to make sure," I don't know. Basically, she's asking the guard to come inside. And he's like, "No, I don't go in there. There are fleas in there. Why would, like, there's fleas in that room. We hate fleas. We don't go in there." And she realized that because there were fleas, the Bible had not been taken away. Because there were fleas, the guards hadn't come in there, and so they were able to read the Bible to a group of women every single night.
Wow.
And you're like, what? You know, and it's crazy. And once again, I know it's controversial to be like, give thanks for everything. It's like, well, really? You sure about that? You know, there's some pretty interesting things out there, but I love that Betsy was like, let's be grateful for the fleas. And then there ended up being a really, really profound, big reason for why there were fleas.
Yeah.
I don't think that's the case for everything, and I don't want to say it is because that might be pretty insensitive to someone. I don't know. I like to try to be sensitive to listeners, but I do think that finding God in everything will help us find hope, bring you back to hope, and help us find meaning and joy. And I don't know why suddenly I shared that. I don't even know where we were talking, but you just reminded me of it. Do you remember where we were? I genuinely don't. I'm not going to lie.
Oh, we were talking about this meaning and suffering.
Thank you.
Viktor Frankl.
Yes.
Concentration camp.
Yes. So, yes. All of the above. But yeah, she was like, fleas, I cannot be grateful for the fleas. And it turned out the fleas were basically what kept God there for them. So anyway, I just love that story. Maybe you've heard it before, listeners, I'm sure. Maybe some of you have. I've heard it before. But I've never read it. So I just downloaded the book and there you go. But anyway, someone gave a talk in church and actually shared that story. And that was the second time I'd heard it. But I was like, oh, maybe I do want to read that book. That's pretty good. So
yeah, thanks for sharing that. Yeah. I don't think I'm familiar with that story. So I'll have to look into that.
Yeah. Do you have Kindle Unlimited? Probably not.
No.
Yeah. I feel like most people don't, but anyway.
That means that I'd actually have to read frequently. And unfortunately for me, it's a goal.
That's fair. Fair enough. But my mom has Kindle Unlimited, and we have the same account. And between the two of us, yeah.
Yeah.
But Kindle keeps track of, this is just a side note, Kindle keeps track of how many weeks you've read in a row and how many days you've read in a row. And we are on like our 170th day in a row. And there's like, I think we're on like our 300th, I'm going to look it up now, but I think we're on like our 300th week in a row.
Wow.
Which is a lot.
Good for you.
Let's see. Okay, I lied. 281 weeks in a row.
Hey, that's
so close. And then we're on day 173. So anyway.
That's awesome.
That's a lot. What's like 300 divided by 50? Anyway, 6 years, maybe? I could be, someone's going to laugh at me and they're going to be like, you simpleton.
Oh, no.
Anyway, so yeah, we have Kindle Unlimited.
Awesome.
The moral of the story is we have Kindle Unlimited.
Thanks for sharing.
Yeah. So anyway, back to suffering and meaning in suffering. I don't want to speak for all and speak and say that everything that we suffer is for a purpose or is for some kind of something, but I do think God can make anything beautiful. And so I don't think he's like, okay, Kyra's going to break her arm tomorrow. I'm making that happen. No, I think Kyra made a decision. She fell from this really high bar and she broke her arm. Now let's make something beautiful. Mm-hmm. So anyway, that's one of the reasons it's called Imperfectly Broken, by the way. I broke my arm in 2019. I broke it in half, actually. Yeah. Wow. Both bones sticking out. It's kind of intense. And I started it in 2019, just a few months after it happened. And then also broken because a broken heart with depression. So imperfectly broken because I'm imperfect. And I have perfectionist tendencies. Gotten a lot better at that. But anyway, that's the name. I don't know why I suddenly told you that. Apparently I said I'm just going to go off this episode. I apologize.
I love it.
So, anyway, Jess, what's going through your mind right now? I really do apologize. I just kind of went off.
Oh, no, you're good. I actually was trying to envision your arm. Call me crazy,
yeah, but I can show you
I was seriously like, wow, that one's a doozy.
Yeah, it was a doozy. Here. It was a doozy.
No, I don't know. I think that story is just so incredible.
Yeah. And
the courage that that little snippet that you shared, it was, I don't know, pretty eye-opening.
Yeah.
And, from a young age, my dad has always mentioned the word perspective.
Yeah. Was it weird on the first few days of class then? Clint was like, the principle of perspective, and you were like, oh, great.
Yes. I actually will never forget, Kyra, perspective. The first time I was introduced to that word by my father was watching Ratatouille.
That's awesome.
Yep.
I love it.
And he had explained perspective, and it wasn't until I moved to different countries, experienced different things happened, I did things, that I was like, oh, I understand perspective. I'm still understanding perspective.
I think it's a work in progress.
I commend those women for reading. They read knowing that they could be killed, be tortured, all the things that.
And isn't it interesting that we have the capability to read, will not be tortured, will not be, any of those things, and yet we don't. Definitely puts the perspective on that as well.
Certainly.
Anyway.
So that's what came to my mind. My little Ratatouille perspective.
No, I love that. So why Ratatouille? What perspective did he...
Oh, so I'm trying to remember. I knew you were going to ask me that. I want to say it was, what's his name?
Oh, that's a great question.
You know who I'm talking about?
Are you talking about the main character?
No, not Remy. I know Remy.
Well, I mean
yes, the man, the man who's
about.
Tall, the typewriter.
Yes. Let's do cast and we'll find it.
Okay.
It's not Alfredo Linguini, is it?
Isn't that the guy who was the cook? Oh, wait, no. Yeah. I want to say it is.
Is he the guy that eats it?
Yes. Yep.
Okay.
If I remember correctly, there was a scene where, because, he's kind of...
Nadar Kessard.
Is that his name?
Yeah, he's the health inspector.
No. It's not the health inspector. Oh, it's that guy.
Which one?
The guy with the glasses. What's
this one?
His name? Yes.
Yeah. Isn't he the guy who... Oh, okay. Yeah.
So he does newspapers, right? It's been a long time since I've seen Ratatouille.
Yeah, maybe we need to watch it again.
But from my recollection, that... what's his name? My goodness. Not Colette. Oh, my goodness.
I don't think his name's Nadar Kessard.
Anton, food critic Anton Ego.
Okay.
That is the guy, and that's where perspective first hit. Why? I'm trying to remember, but I think he was just he gave negative reviews, and he was kind of just dull, right?
Yeah.
A little bit melancholic, if you will. And it wasn't until he tried that food that we get a flashback.
Yeah.
Of his life.
And then he smiles.
And he smiles. And I think it was that scene in particular that I asked a question to my father, and I believe he mentioned the word perspective to me. And I was like, how does this have to do with Ratatouille and this guy? And it wasn't until later that I found some meaning and perspective.
Isn't that so interesting that our brains are always working through things that we learn and we don't realize?
Yes.
Like, wait a second, that one time when I was 12, when this happened.
Yep.
Yeah, that's awesome.
So,
I love that. So hope, perspective and hope. Those are very interwoven and connected for sure.
Certainly. What came to your mind with hope and perspective?
Well, just barely. Going back to Viktor Frankl and Betsy and Corey, they experienced the worst of life. I mean, I don't think you can say that there is much worse than like what they experienced. And so it is super admirable and cool that they have found meaning in that, and that they have created something beautiful and something to help others with. So with all of that being said, one of the reasons that I'm grateful for suffering, which that sounds stupid, but come with me here, is that it gives you some skin in the game. That maybe sounds stupid, but I mean, people can trust what you have to say if your life hasn't been peaches and roses. Is that a phrase? Peaches and roses and peaches?
I think we can go with it.
Yeah.
Maybe like peaches and cottage cheese at this point. Like, just keep going.
Okay. So, I know there's a phrase, like rose, whatever the word phrase
Rose
is.
petals and rainbows?
Maybe that's what it is.
And rainbows?
Yeah, maybe that's what it is.
Unicorns and rainbows?
Yeah,
I don't
like
know.
peaches and, anyway.
Peaches and cream.
Yeah. Exactly. But anyway, if your life hasn't been rainbows and sunshine, that's a phrase. If your life hasn't been rainbows and sunshine, then you have some skin in the game. And that makes you credible if you talk about suffering. And so for that reason, I am grateful that not all of my life was easy, so that I have some skin in the game. And with hope and perspective, suffering gives you perspective into hope. You know, and sometimes people are like, hope is awesome, and you're like, it is, but why? And sometimes people don't know how to answer that question.
Yeah.
And when you've really truly suffered, you know why hope matters. It makes me think of the time in General Conference, which is, for those who don't know, it is a big conference that the Church of Jesus Christ of Latter-day Saints has twice a year. And leaders from the church just share and talk and give talks, basically. Anyway, I always admire when speakers talk about some really big suffering thing in their life in a humble way. Not like, look what but more like, you know, my daughter who passed away from cancer taught us this lesson. And it's like, no, this person has skin in the game. Like, they can talk and I can listen because they know. You know, they've experienced it. And for President Nelson, who's our prophet, he has a daughter that he's lost, and he's lost his wife. And I'm sure he's lost other people as well, but he has skin in the game. I mean, he literally grew up during World War II. Mm-hmm. You know, he was born in, I think, 24.
Yeah.
So, anyway.
He's getting up there.
Yeah, he has skin in the game. Anyway, I don't know why I went that route, but...
Isn't it just amazing, though, the power of words as well?
Yeah.
Like, it is through their suffering, their overcoming, and then their words that we're able to gain... I don't know, more knowledge, more perspective.
Their vulnerability. Too, through words.
I recently watched All the Light We Cannot See.
Okay.
And it does say F words, so just be mindful of that.
Fair enough.
But the message, like...
Is that the one with the kind of a sad ending?
Yes, but it was hopeful.
Okay.
It was cool.
Okay, I haven't seen it,
based
but
off
I think
of
I
a
know what
book,
you're talking about.
And the book is... It doesn't end the same way as the series. It's a series. There's only 4 episodes.
Okay.
And it's in the time of World War II, I believe. So Nazi German soldiers. And, oh my goodness, Kyra. Like, I was hooked on the first episode.
Really?
Yes. You want to know why?
Yes, I do.
Because, 1, the cinematography was amazing. Music, amazing. But 2, it was just a different story. And it was through, I won't give it all away for those that want to see it or whatever, but there is a professor.
Okay.
And he speaks. And radios were not permitted. You could not broadcast, you know, in case there were messages, secret codes. And he spoke to children on knowledge, on light, on the planets. And you're thinking like, okay, I know that. I can look it up on my phone, but... They did not have the resources, and this professor touched the lives of these 2 particular children who later we see kind of connect. And this one girl is blind, and it's through his words, and then this boy who is an orphan who later becomes a German soldier out of his, like, he did not want to be a German soldier, but because of his radio skills, because he made his own radio to listen to the professor. And I don't know why I am so, like, in just this awe of this series, but it really spoke to me in the sense of this communication. It was through the words of this professor, so to speak, that these kids who later grow up had a connection already. It was through words.
Yeah.
And I think that's just pretty neat, especially in a time where... words, you don't have agency for words. You have to be very careful, you know?
Right.
So anyway, I went off a little bit there, but I would definitely recommend those listening to watch it. At least give it a try.
The Light We Cannot See?
All the Light We Cannot See.
All the Light We Cannot See.
I mean, just the title.
Yeah,
like,
it does.
Because she's blind, and so it kind of takes this... whole light and seeing into a different perspective and touch and words and right. I don't know, but yeah, I mean, just bringing it back to that communication and the suffering and the powering through that to gain strength is pretty neat, is what I'm trying to get at.
I love that. Thank you. I appreciate that. Well, I feel like we had a few good quotes this episode, and I'm just gonna surpass the word of the day today, to be honest with you. So 1 out of 2 is pretty good. But is there anything else you wanted to add? Just overall final words?
You know, for those listening, try and find some joy. Yeah. Try and find some light.
I love it.
Maybe some light that you didn't think was even there.
Yeah, I love it. How? Give them just a few words. What do you recommend?
How?
There's a lot of hows.
You know, Kyra, I think that is something that they should figure out.
All right. I respect that. There's definitely different ways of how, so I love it. Yeah, great. wow. Sometimes I'm just like, yeah, man, woo. But yeah, I appreciate you coming on. I appreciate just our little conversations. I think it was fun. I think the random tangents was a fun way to go. So anyway.
Yes, thanks again for having me,
Yeah,
Kyra.
of course. It was a pleasure. So anyway, thank you guys so much for listening. Don't forget to embrace imperfection, find meaning, satisfaction, and joy, like Jess said, from the journey. I'm Kyra.
This is Jess.
And this is
Imperfectly Broken, the podcast.
podcast.